There's been a lot of noise lately about Mashiach coming, a lot of buzz. Yitzhak Yosef said recently that Mashiach has to come within the next 15 years latest. But Amar also recently spoke about how Mashiach's times are already here. He mentioned that the Chavetz Chaim would mention about it, that the times are coming and they're right here. And Chaim Kanievsky also, whenever Chaim Kanievsky would tell people not to fly, he said, you're going to miss the Geula if you fly. We have to understand what is the reason why this is all of a sudden coming up now. Why would people say such things? One of the sources of that Mashiach should maybe come within the next 15 years is because of the Ramban in Shir HaShirim that talks about, it's also mentioned in Rabbeinu Bachya in Parshat Nitzavim, where it says that the Elef Lecha Shlomo Matayim Lenotrim et Piryo, Pasuk in Shir HaShirim, which is saying that there's going to be 1,000 years to Shlomo, Melech Shalom Shalom, 1,000 years to Hashem, and there's going to be Matayim Lenotrim et Piryo, 200 for those who are keeping its fruit. Meaning to say that before the last 1,000 years, which is, let's say, from year 6,000 to year 7,000, there's going to be 200 years of Tchiyat HaMetim, 200 years for those who are waiting for the fruits, which may mean the reward for their mitzvot that they've done in Tchiyat HaMetim. So, therefore, it has to be that Tchiyat HaMetim is after the Mashiach. As we know, we say in Shachrit and Shabbat, we speak about so first you have Olam Hazeh, then Olam Haba. Olam Haba is the world of the Neshamot. If the person dies, the soul goes to Olam Haba. There's nobody like you to the Yemot HaMashiach, days of Mashiach. There's nobody that's like you in the days of the resurrection of the dead. So Mashiach is going to come first before Tchiyat HaMetim. In the days of Tchiyat HaMetim, in the beginning, it's going to be a long span of Tchiyat HaMetim. And in the beginning, the Tzaddikim are going to come to join Mashiach, and then it's going to go and last all the way till the end of the times before the year 6,000. Year 6,000, the world goes through a self-destruct. Like we know that Hashem created the world in 6 days, which is comparable to 6,000 years. Every day of God is compared to 1,000 years. So that means to say that from year 6,000, the world's going to go through some type of self-destruct. It's talked about in the Gemara, many different explanations what that might mean. And what's happening is the rabbis are saying, hey, if there's 200 years, it's a Ramban and a Rabbeinu Bachya. Rishonim that talk about 200 years before the end should be the years of days of Tchiyat HaMetim. The Rabbeinu Bachya even says 206 years, which is important, because Ummatayim is 206 of Vav in the beginning, is an extra 6, and therefore it's 206 years before the end of days is days of Tchiyat HaMetim, and Mashiach has to come before that. Right now we're at 214 years before the year 6,000, right? So that means, because we're 5786, so 214 years before the year 6,000 means that we're getting closer to that time of the 200 years of Tchiyat HaMetim that Mashiach has to come from before then. So these are the numbers, and this is why it's the buzz right now being talked about. The problem is that, of course, this Ramban and this Rabbeinu Bachya can be read in different ways. On the footnotes in Rabbeinu Bachya and the Cook edition, it right away says it in different, it explains it in some other fashion to explain this Rabbeinu Bachya. I mean, I like to believe that Mashiach's days can't be less than 210 years, which means that Mashiach would have to come within the next 4 years, being that the days of Mitzrayim, we were there for 210, and Hashem says, Samchenu ki moti nitanu. We tell Hashem, we said, rejoice us the days of our suffering. We also know that like the days of Hashem taking us out of Egypt, Hashem will show us wonders. So we compare days of coming out of Mitzrayim to the days of what we're going to have, the days of Mashiach. We also have the idea that Hashem is Yeshmenu Aharit Kereshit, that the end days will be like the first days, the end Geula will be like the first Geula. So these are all ideas of why I would like to believe that Mashiach's days would be 210 years. It also because of the fact that it says, the Sifri says, Binu Shenot Dor Vador. Shenot Dor Vador means, it brings down the Sifri from the word Yerech Dor Dorim, that the days of Mashiach is going to be 3 generations in the days of Mashiach. 3 generations means each generation 70 years, 70 times 3 is 210 years. The gematria of the word Dor is also the gematria of 210. And the idea would be also that the days of Mashiach are going to be parallel, as we know that Hashem told Avraham Avinu that Dor Revi'i Yeshuvu Hena, the 4th generation will come back to the land of Israel. And that means to say that the 3 generations alone will be in Egypt. So we have this concept paralleled again, and I would like to maybe bring out that if this is of course the end time, that might be that days of Mashiach. The Zohar also talks about that the days of Tchiyat Tivnim is going to be 210 years. So again, we have this number of 210. Another idea is also that when Moshe Rabbeinu was told by God to tell the people in Egypt the name of God, he said, tell them that the name of Ekyeh is the one who is revealing them. And the rabbis tell us that the word Ekyeh, it's the name of God, to tell them that he's redeeming them. The Jews at the time thought they're going to be in Egypt for 260 years, like the number of Salderot. And the 260 they thought is because there was 10 that were involved in the sale of Yosef. 10 times Yud Kei Vav Kei times 26 is 260. He says, no, tell them the name of God is Ekyeh, which is Gematria 21. So it's 21 times 10, and therefore it's 210 years. And he said, Ekyeh Ashir Ekyeh, that in the future also will be 210. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, don't tell them that because it's going to get them to not have the patience to wait so long till such a late date. The problem with all these numbers is that when you give these numbers and these dates, they're never ever true. The reason why these things are never true is because the Gemara tells us, Rav Zera would tell student Talmidei Chachamim who would try to calculate the dates of the Mashiach, he would tell them that when you try to make these dates, you're just making him further, because any date that you're going to say, he's not going to come. This is already Hashem's side, that the days of Mashiach will never ever be known to anybody. So when you try to find it out, you're making it not happen. Comparable, the Gemara tells us 3 things. That Mashiach will only come behesach hadat, when you're not ready, we're not expecting from him, not pre-calculated. Similar to also something that is lost. A mitzvah is something that something we find is only found. Sometimes things that you lost object is when you try not looking for it. Also a rat, akhbar, something that you try looking for, you don't see it, but when all of a sudden it just shows up out of nowhere. The greatest rabbis have made mistakes about the Mashiach, including Rabbi Akiva. I thought that Bar Kochva was Mashiach. Somebody once asked Rav Chaim the question, how could it make sense that a person has to believe that Mashiach come any single day? If Eliyahu Navi didn't come yesterday, that means Mashiach can't come today. As the Pasuk says, the day before Mashiach is going to come, Eliyahu is going to first tell us that Mashiach is coming tomorrow. As we know, it says, Hina anochi sholech lachem et Eliyahu Navi lifnei bo yom Hashem hagadol v'hanora. So if Eliyahu Navi didn't come yesterday, so how could I say like the Animami that I believe the Mashiach could come today? If Eliyahu didn't tell us yesterday, Mashiach is coming. It's unbelievable that Hashem made it, that we have internet, for the sake that when Eliyahu Navi is going to come in one day, the whole world is going to know that Mashiach is coming tomorrow. And the answer that the Brisker Rav Chaim told him back was, the answer to that question is Teku. What does Teku mean? Tishvi Yashev Kushot, but Eliyahu Navi will answer that question as well. There's a great rabbi who died in the Holocaust. I have this idea. I found it on the Shoot Bar Ilan program, the digital software, that he wrote that the explanation to answer this question is something beautiful. He says like this. There's 2 times that Mashiach can come, either Be'ita, which means to say the deadline, and there's Achishana, which means that Hashem rushes the Mashiach before the time that he's supposed to come. And he says like this. He says that Eliyahu Navi has to come first to say that Mashiach is coming tomorrow is only if the Jews are at the end of the time. But if it's the time that the Jews are being rushed, then Mashiach doesn't have to wait. And that's why he explains. He says, by Eliyahu Navi, we sing on Havdalah, we say, Bimhera yavo im Mashiach ben David, is if Mashiach is going to come hurriedly, then he's going to come together. Eliyahu Navi is going to come together with Mashiach ben David. He doesn't have to be there the day before to announce that Mashiach's coming tomorrow. When Mashiach's going to be here, Eliyahu Navi is going to be here before or at the same time, and everybody's going to know that Mashiach is here. So all these numbers that we give get people to think about the end date, and they start forgetting about how he could actually come today. Every single time you say Kaddish, you say Kadav Kedash Shmer, we are praying for the Mashiach. Like we say Yeheh Shmer Rabba, the name of God's great name should become great. Yud Kei Vav Kei. We're asking that the Mashiach should come, and the way that we say Kaddish, whether it's by Torah and Tefillah, those are 2 ways we're going to bring the Mashiach. We say this idea to everybody get together, have your minds focused, and say that pray for the Mashiach to come. And if we just put our hearts together in those moments when we say the Kaddish, then a Mashiach will come. One thing is for sure true, everybody agrees to. All the signs of Mashiach, all the signs of the prophecies have already come true. Whether it's that the Jews are going to come back to the land, whether it's that the agriculture is going to grow again, whether it's that all the signs of the Gemara and Mishnah Sotah, the things about that it says about what's going to be, that all ended up happening. Chaim Vital saying about that after the 4 exiles is going to be the Galut of Yishmael, and the Jews are going to cry out because of Yishmael at the end of days. All this is happening. The words that the Gemara tells us that in the days of Ben David Ba, they're going to start up with Talmidei Chachamim. They're going to try to cause them problems, giving them issues like we're having right now in Israel. All these things are all signs that Mashiach is finally, for sure, or here or around the corner. Just for us to say what's the dates, it's just going to get people confused. So better not to focus on that. Better just to focus on the fact that all we need is another prayer.